I would like to officially open the Tuesday, May 21st, 2019 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. As always, we will start with a roll call. I am Brian Barabee.
William Payne.
Emily Winter.
Get back
Rebecca Blunt.
Excellent. First up this evening, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the notice of intent filed by Chris McKenzie on behalf of the applicant for the project based at 811 Main Street, Assessors Map 5.C, Parcel 2. The public meetings begin right now this evening. Do we have? Hi, how are you?
Good. My name's Peter Koskas. That's Chris McKenzie. I'm going to back up. Cards. And here's a couple of updated plans as of today. Did you guys get them?
I need a hard copy.
Yeah, one for her.
I gave them the
You guys all
small
have them?
one.
Okay. My name's Peter with Sherman Dillis. The client is Alex Fidelis. Notice of intent for a driveway crossing and addition to an existing family house. The site is located across the street from the church right downtown, so you guys have to go and see it all. So what he's proposing to do is replacing this existing culvert. This is the flow right now of the water, and it's backing up in this area, so he wants to take these culverts out and propose it with two 18-inch culverts and create a retaining wall along the side, as well as widening the driveway to allow access for fire truck or just a truck in general without, falling off the sides there. And he wants to put a guardrail on the top of that to kind of prevent that in the winter from sliding off there as well. The addition over here is going to come off to the west of the house, 20 by 28, basically mirroring the right side of the house if you're looking at it from the road. So only this part is in the buffer zone right here, 216 square feet.
Up the front, up the back?
Right?
Okay.
Front.
Yeah.
So the front entrance is like right here.
Yep.
And we're looking at it here, so the darker green is the wetlands now. We're proposing there's 75 feet of alteration to the culvert area. In red here is 150 square feet of replication area with a tree planting detail right here. And then yesterday we discussed kind of a line of blueberry bushes or something to kind of define this 50-foot buffer zone. So from there, here's a line of those, and then we proposed doing a conservation seed mix below that to kind of, because there's a existing access way that he was using to build like the well, and he has it all alone back here now. But just so he doesn't continue using that, kind of, make that very noticeable there too. And then we added the proposed tree to be removed that we talked about. If you're looking at the house, there's like a 10-inch tree that was right in the rock there on the side. He's going to remove that, and then these are proposed evergreen trees right here, planting 8 feet on center. He would need approval from the Concom before planting. He's not exactly sure on what the species would be as of now.
He may need to talk to the tree warden as well, if it's
Okay.
within the right of way.
Right now I have him showing off of the right of way. This line would be the property line.
I would
front.
just probably give
Yeah.
even just a respectful call.
Yeah.
See, he may say, I don't care,
Mhm.
but just get ahead of that. So there's only one tree proposed for removal?
Yep. Yeah, he's not going to remove anything on that side. It's actually down in the wetland on this side.
Just trying to see anything proposed for when we put in the new culvert and the new buttress to, and I'm just looking for erosion control.
Yep, the erosion
coming in.
control, sorry about that.
That's
Yeah,
all right.
It comes right down through here. There's going to be siltation fence along this like half a dotted line here.
Yep.
That's what this is too.
Yep. Comes right down there, and right down here. Silt fence around this area, silt fence through here.
And
Should kind of work.
Is the silt fence on the notes on the plan or no?
I believe it's in the notes here.
Check that out.
looks like it would probably get staked down to here, but I'm just wondering, in the wetland where the actual flow is now.
Yeah.
What do we do, are we proposing anything, we're not gonna stake hay bales, right? What's the best way to protect the stream?
So actually, similar to what's been done at the Century Mill Road crossing, is you can either do sort of a staggered silt fence hay bales or straw bales, or in this case, I don't think it's that strong of a flow coming through considering it's an intermittent stream. So right now, we're seeing it at a high flow period. I would also suggest probably wait to do the work until it's drier. But the silt fence is an acceptable erosion control there. And the wattles, I don't really know, if you're doing it during a high flow period or a higher flow period, I don't think the wattles would really serve much purpose, in my opinion. But in a low flow situation, I think it's either bales or wattles will be sufficient, or there's other wattles such as that hold a little bit more weight to them, if that's what the commission's concerned about, but.
There are some existing wattles around this area, but right through here, there is existing too, from when we did the septic upgrade.
Yeah.
But I think going back to it drying out, or
Yeah.
definitely you would like to do the work over the summer during the driest period, and then get all the plantings in before the freeze too. So you're not dealing with a mess going through into the winter, you know?
Right, yeah.
I think it's important to note that he is living in the house now, so losing access, driveway access will be a problem for him. I'm sure he's gonna wanna replace that culvert and get the project done relatively quickly.
Yeah.
How wide is the driveway right now?
It's 10 feet.
What's the proposed?
12.
I was to say, I was out on the site, to me, looking at that
Right.
culvert, I mean, it's one of those like,
It's an improvement.
yeah, and that culvert, I don't know how old it is. And God bless them, those like 1700 culverts are still holding strong in most town, but it's somewhat of a matter, I mean, you can see where it's slopping off. You can to me, it seemed clear that you were gonna have to deal with shoring up the driveway at some point. So that I can see. I'm not sure about the two 18-inch tubes. Right now, it's a single tube. Is there a reason why it wouldn't be a larger single tube with like a natural bottom? Because right now, it's a natural bottom stream as well.
It's a height problem.
It's a height problem?
Yeah. Anything larger than the 18 inch is gonna require the driveway to
Yeah.
go up, because you gotta cover over it and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then what happens is the fill for the driveway gets wider and wider, and you start filling the wetlands.
As you like 420 coming in here, and the bottom would be 416.5 right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you would have to go up another couple feet.
Are you able to do a natural bottom on an 18-inch? And again, not so much I'm sold on a natural bottom, but I know existing it's a natural bottom. I know we've tried to go with natural bottom culverts in other areas. Is that something that's possible with 18-inch pipes?
They're just not very large, I don't think. I think the only way you could really do that would be to go with 4 of them and cut them in half and lay them, half
Yeah,
pipes down,
yeah.
about really all you can do. And even then, you're gonna have, they're gonna be all connected.
You could clog that easily too. They're on the
Right,
edges.
right.
It's gonna be a mess.
And then my other question to the addition, is that foundation or slab?
I believe it's foundation right now.
I don't know whether he's proposing a full foundation or slab on grade. The existing house does have a basement.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
I would suspect he would want to put a full basement in
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
But it doesn't say on the plans at all, just.
He hasn't provided us any house plans, he just simply gave us a dimension that he wanted to add on.
Yeah, to the existing house. Any other questions? did you have thoughts?
If you had concerns about whether it be a slab or a foundation, that could certainly be something that the commission conditions, but that may be something that you would want to go back and ask your client, to be sure that he's comfortable with that. I do appreciate that you put the plantings on here, the area to be vegetated or naturalized, because I think it's, in the long run, it's gonna be mindful for him living in the house. Okay, that's the area, that's my limit of landscaped area.
And it just slopes down right now with nothing
Right.
stopping it too, so.
Yep.
Anybody here in the audience tonight for 811 Main Street? Thoughts on 811 Main Street? Sorry, I jumped you as you get in. Do we have our favorite DEP file number, all that good stuff?
There weren't any comments associated with it.
Strong thoughts.
No, I don't think that gravel improvements is pretty much needed.
Seemed obvious. And again, I can understand expanding the house just because it is currently existing lawn right there. So one thing I looked at, it's just going over existing lawn. So it doesn't look like anything needs to be knocked down in order to do that.
Yeah, he has an hydro seeded from about 50 feet past the well, and then coming all the way down to the extent of where the septic system was down grade too.
Well, yeah, all right, yeah, that's true, good idea, that was easy to spot on the property. We talk about, as far as doing it the driest point of the season, is that something where we could condition that the wetland crossing, the work on the wetland crossing should not begin before this date, should not end before this date, or should end before this date? As far as dry seasons for our area, what's a good start date, in your opinion?
I have no idea right now.
It was like 2 months ago,
Typically,
yeah.
That's a loaded
Mid-July or
question.
August is good, but we're having
Yeah,
You can't tell.
no, I know.
Corey, do you have any suggestions? I feel like you're better versed on this than I am.
I'd say that too.
Yeah.
2 years ago, we had a July and August that was equivalent of some springs.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
And we had a June with no rain
Yeah,
at all.
right.
But that's technically.
All right.
And then you want planting before, when's typically first frost?
Usually sometime mid-October, not quite late, so
I
far.
was gonna say
It's been November,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you want plantings by, probably would be
November, right? Or-
yeah, by November,
November.
and get them in, don't wait till over in the ground.
Yeah, so you have a few weeks before.
Erosion control, walls,
Yeah, which seemed fine.
and silt fence. The plantings are
Here,
Yeah,
there.
high bush.
and the high bush is fine, that's a native that.
Okay, you're fine. I just thought that you said or something else, so I just want to be sure. that
Up
they're-
here, he wasn't.
Okay,
That
so
was,
that's
that was
why-
gonna be the question, right? I think this one probably kind of more for privacy than.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of the ones that's like-
Yeah.
His concern is pulling out to.
Yeah, he's gonna be able to see. Yeah. If there's no other questions or thoughts, I'm gonna make a motion that we close the public hearing for 811 Main Street. Do I hear hear a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. So closed.
Did you not care about the foundation? It doesn't matter to me, but I just
do,
wanna.
I do,
I can talk to the client and we'll have an answer for you. This,
Okay, so and that's something we can condition, but I just wanted to give you the option in case you wanted to leave it open.
no, that's
You're
fine.
fine with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, and well, and
Is
then
it
it was,
just a matter of, are you just concerned about how much excavation they're doing? Like how deep the foundations are?
yeah, because you're gonna have to get in, and then it's gonna be a question of, we should talk about stockpiling materials.
I saw there was a note on the plans about that. It says outside of the 100-foot
Yeah.
buffer.
Yeah.
So anywhere over there.
Yeah.
The backside of the house.
Which is,
Or around the second.
Yeah.
yeah, so it's fine. Just trying to think if it was something that would hold us up if he did say, no, I want to do a foundation or a slab.
Sure.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Right.
does
Well,
it
then-
really significantly change? Are we gonna,
Yeah.
you know,
We're
other
talking
than?
about like 4-foot frost walls versus 10-foot foundation, so it does impact, right?
Right. Yeah, and again, with there being a foundation for the rest of the house, I would imagine he wants to go foundation there is my guess. And it would make sense.
So
Yeah.
it's- I'm just saying.
Yeah,
that,
no,
because you seem concerned about it, I just wanna make sure.
I was more curious that we knew what was going on. It was more a question of the excavating, which it seems
Okay.
like is already discussed. All right. In case, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the order of conditions for 811 Main Street as drafted with the following amendments. That work on the wetland crossing be conducted during the drier seasons, not begin before July 1st, with an end date targeted by the end of August.
Yep.
I think that's all we have.
Plantings by November.
Oh, that's right, and also, that the proposed plantings get in the ground by November 1st. And that was really it, right? All right. With that said, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Guy? All right.
Thank you guys. Table?
Bill was the second on the
First,
closing,
second.
and then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I have those two, yeah.
That's all right. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue the public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the notice of intent submitted by Scott Goddard regarding the proposed driveway improvement located at 21 Century Mill Road. Public meeting to begin right now this evening. The Bolton Conservation Commission will also continue the public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the notice of intent submitted by Sam Labry of Goddard Consulting regarding the proposed construction of a single-family home and septic system on Lot 3, Century Mill Road. Public meeting to begin right now. The Bolton Conservation Commission will also continue a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the notice of intent submitted by Sam Labry of Goddard Consulting regarding the proposed construction of a single-family home and septic system on Lot 4, Century Mill Road. Public meeting to begin right now this evening. And the Bolton Conservation Commission will also continue the public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the request for determination of applicability submitted by Sam Labry of Goddard Consulting regarding the proposed grading associated with construction of a single-family home and septic system located on Lot 2, Century Mill Road. Public meeting to also begin right now this evening. All right. We good, everybody? I think so.
Good evening.
How are you?
All right, thanks. So, I haven't submitted any new information since our last hearing. I did meet with the engineer at Forest Engineering. He's working on looking at ways this lot might be able to be redesigned to address some of the questions raised by the commission. We're also making notes about the shed relocation, and I still owe you a narrative on the amendment on the work in the buffer over here. That said, the issue that I think is probably going to be most helpful to sort of advance the discussion was where we left off last time about making a determination on rural status. The commission wanted to do a site walk last week. I wasn't available to join that site walk. I haven't heard any feedback on how it went. I don't think I actually
I
said
wasn't
you weren't able to
available.
go either. I've been monitoring the areas as well, and basically, you know, it was they were very dry in April. There wasn't observed vernal pool activity during the site inspection during the breeding season when Rebecca and I looked at it, and other times that I looked at it as well. And then it's since this area is all sand and gravel, it's very responsive, and fluctuating with the rain events. So when we had all the rain events in the month of May, then there was areas that got up to, you know, several inches deep, and then the leaf popped, you know, a week or two ago, and now and rains are with. So
We were there a week from Monday.
so I went out, I swung by there yesterday, and it's basically all dry. There's a couple of little puddles that are, you know, 1 to 2 inches kind of a thing, right, in that little area here, and, you know, in here, but very, very small and very, very shallow. There's no signs of any reproducing you know, tadpoles or anything like that. It's just, it's literally just a couple of puddles that are remaining from the rain events. So that as the trees now evapotranspirate, it sucks the water pretty quickly regionally, and because it's sand and gravel, it responds quickly to that. When you have tight till areas, it holds perched water conditions up high, and that's not what we have here. So I would like to, you know, try to resolve that issue if we could tonight, and then I can more confidently, you know, bring back the plan revisions that were requested otherwise on that.
Is it possible to get some soil bores for those areas?
Sure.
Okay. I feel like we're talking basically about the hydrology and that's it. And we haven't really talked about soils or vegetation or just to rule out any potential wetland areas. And because when we were out there last Monday, it looks like wetlands, like it really does, and it was wet. But we don't have any data on any of, you know, the soil or vegetation in those two areas. We do, like you've said that, you know, it gets dry here and there, and we saw it when it was pretty wet.
It was very wet when we saw it.
There was standing water, but then it just, you know, just had that kind of wet, mucky look everywhere else. So, I guess for me to get a level of comfort, I just want to know if, you know, that it's not a wetland.
Yeah.
You know, because it's hard to just go off of, there was water now, it was dry this
Sure.
month, it was wet this month, but,
Well, and there's criteria under the Wetland Protection Act, you need to be ILSF, which is a large volume, quarter foot of water, right? So we're well under that. But under the I don't know if you bylaw memorized, but there's a volumetric requirement for an isolated wetland also.
Yeah, I don't have that
under the
off the top of my
bylaw. There, you know, it's in your bylaws, but I can.
in the town or not, or
Your
state?
local
Oh,
bylaw, right? So I can provide soil data, but I don't think that would. Are you looking at the whole bylaw?
No, this is the state.
Okay. Yeah, so under Massachusetts law,
Mhm.
to be regulated as a wetland resource area,
Mhm.
isolated land subject to flooding has to hold a quarter acre foot of water, 10,000 cubic feet-ish
Okay,
of water annually to be regulated. Smaller than that, it's not regulated.
Okay.
Regardless of if you had, you know, pockets of hydric soils or wetland vegetation.
so
So
we're
not
under
solely
that,
for isolated land subject to flooding.
okay, and we're talking more vernal pool.
We're talking resource area, so specifically the concern was, is it a vernal pool, is it not a vernal pool,
Mhm.
because it's established as potential vernal pool, but if you wanna request auger borings, that's totally fine and acceptable in my book. And then if you wanna do that and then provide information saying why it's not, that's fine.
That's fine. You know, I don't like providing information.
And have you ever gone there at night, like to see if there's any frog noises? I'm just thinking, so I have a stream and ponds behind my house that basically dry out in the summer. And last night, the frogs were so loud, it's like a chorus of frogs, and you would never know that if you were there in July or August, because the stream's dried up, the pond is almost, the pond gets to be, a 20th of its size in the spring.
Right.
But in this, in these 2 months, it's just loud chorus.
Like
and just
spring peepers, and what you're talking about?
many different species of frogs. I probably, bullfrogs and peepers, and I don't know what other species
Right. So
there
there's
are
certain-
in this area.
There's a
but-
lot of wetlands around here for sure.
Yeah.
And there's certain species that are considered all wetland vernal pool indicators, right? So
Mhm.
for chorusing frogs, that would be wood frogs, right? So that, and so they sound more like, they don't have that high pitched spring peeper sound, or
Right.
American toads have that high twill, real, sound. That happens later in the season. In May, you get American toads, you get gray tree frogs later in May in ephemeral, areas. But you need water in either case to do that.
Right.
Now, our water situation is.
So there's no water now.
I mean, that's
Okay.
deep,
Okay.
right? So it's, that's kind of what we're up against now. But, so you can, if you get ponds, you said you have ponds and streams, you have that, you're gonna get all these other frog species
Right.
breeding. But the all vernal pool species, breed early in the season. So it's, we look for them in like April, sometimes even March, right? And then the eggs hatch, several weeks later, and then usually they go through the month of May into June to, morphology into larvae, and then hop out or crawl out in the case of salamanders in late June or July. And then they dry up for the, July, August, September, and then rain events start again in October, and they fill back up, kind of typical cycles that we see. So, but you need to have those breeding species of more than 5 clusters of egg masses. Or so sometimes you can get onesies and twosies, but the regs require you to have 5, because sometimes a rogue pair of wood frogs will mate in the puddle or something like that.
And then even when it's dry, there are things you can look for, like caddisfly, casing, things like that, that would be indicative that these species use the pools, so.
Okay.
And then Heritage ditched, I liked that method at some point, but then they ditched the dry fill method several years ago, as a certification methodology, which is what she's talking about.
Okay.
So, I don't see anything out there now that supports,
Okay.
certifiable, pool situation. So I would like to move on from that. I can still provide you soil data, but that's not going to change our pools data, because that's species driven, not just soils, plants driven.
So if there are if there are hydric soils there, it's too small of an area to be considered? Is that?
That would be something we'd revisit.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, it would be too small of an area to be considered isolated lands that wish to flood. Because it doesn't hold that water.
Okay.
I have to re-review the bylaw to make sure it doesn't meet our local requirements,
Okay.
but in terms of Wetlands Protection Act,
Yeah.
it-
Okay. Okay.
ILSF is quarter to foot's a lot of water. It doesn't sound like it's a lot, but
Yeah.
it's like 100 by 100 by 50 would be
Yeah.
great. That would be 10,000 cubic feet. That's about a full acre.
Anything else?
I was gonna say, other questions here at the moment? Anybody here to discuss this tonight? Questions, thoughts, comments? Please.
I wish you guys could go out tomorrow and see how much water
Can you
is
just
there.
announce your name for the?
Richard Davis, 185 Hudson Road.
You said go out tomorrow and.
And see how much water's there. Maybe there's a difference of opinion as to, hardly any water there versus.
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, it would definitely be nice
Do
to
you have
have.
pictures?
from today.
Do you have pictures from today?
Yeah.
Can I just ask you a question? Is this, which is the most updated plan? This one where you pulled the house forward out of the depression area? this one's pulled out of the depression, this one here is in that
Yeah, these
depression
are
area.
all revised, so you don't have to, so this is not.
Okay. Is there a reason that we pushed that house back into that depression area on lot 4? So
This
that's
is-
just getting all filled in?
Correct. This is driven by so the septic system is limited to the house. You know,
Can I ask what's limiting the septic system?
the setbacks from wetlands and from other septic systems.
It looks like before it was flowing uphill.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Is there's a,
This may have been an old conceptual plan or.
okay, it is, I think I've had this for a while.
I can show you
No, I
a
have
few
the
pictures
same
from
one
today.
too.
You have it, see, I have it pulled out of that depression area.
What's the?
What's the date on that?
June 21st, 2018.
Is there a rev on here? Is there a rev
These
somewhere?
are the revision deeds.
Okay.
Oh, 9/21.
9/21/18, do you have a rev on that one? It's just about the date. Okay, so that's an older plan. Yeah, this has more detailed stuff there, okay.
Let me just show you a couple pictures from today. So,
So are these taken in the
Yep.
depression
yeah,
areas?
so this picture is right here.
Okay,
And the reason I took this was to show that the,
So are those trees on high spots right there?
yes, so that's a high spot. So it's basically showing, I took that to show that there's no fill along the tree trunks. This is, so the sheds are gonna be right here, right outside of the picture. So this is now looking at this whole area right here. That's the extent of the water right there. So that everything else dried up around here, and then you got this little, right there. So that picture is taken, that's right here.
Still pretty much.
Right where this word buffer says, that's that picture.
Yeah. What's the last
And
revision?
what did you?
And this,
this-
9/21.
this picture here is the rest of this area, so that's like all of this right here.
So that's high.
Yeah, and there's no fire. This picture here is looking all at this, right in here, there's no water there. And this little puddle right here is, oh, that's looking right here.
So you're saying there's no water in this region right now?
Correct. That little puddle right there, another inch or so, is right here. And then this puddle, this is all dry here. And this little puddle right here is just.
So Scott, I have a problem here.
Okay.
With the plan.
Okay.
This is,
You're wrong dates or different.
No, unless-
versions.
9/19.
no, so that's 9/19, I don't have
Last
9/21.
night they were there a
Okay.
week ago.
So,
I'll just give you a full fresh.
I know
set.
you're updating the plans
Because
anyways.
this is wrong anyways, because this one, we
So-
pulled this out of the floodplain in here also.
So I
I was gonna say
realized
that.
you just said you were talking to your engineer.
Yes. I'm gonna just give you
One
a
before
full
the phase.
set.
This, I think, is what's before planning board, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So I would encourage you, if you're going before them again, make sure it's the same plan, so there's no confusion.
Okay. What we do, plan.
Yeah, it's nice. You have any questions?
Richard Davis.
Yeah.
Now, I gave you guys some photographs from the excavation that was done there 2 years ago. It was substantial excavation. No organic matter was left on top. Imagine how much water would be retained today if the original organic, like 100 years worth of organic matter, was sitting on top of those soils. Would they be drained to the extent that they're draining by now?
Do you know, was there excavation done in the last 2 years?
So what I explained to the commission was that, right,
Oh, that was the excavation?
So these were basically borrow pits that
Yeah.
were for, used for gravel and then used over the years for dumping, right? And so we went in and
What kind of dumping?
It was mountains of glass and metal and leather and,
You have
Do we have
pictures
that
from before?
noted?
I
Yeah,
probably can find some, I can look through and see what I
okay.
got. I might have some.
And do we have that noted somewhere that trash was removed, that it was a trash heap?
And then,
But do we have any proof, documentation that it was filled with trash and that's why it was all removed?
like dumpster receipts, is that what you're
Yeah, any kind of receipts. You know, it's easy to say I did that because it was filled with trash, but again, nothing personal, based on lie. I mean, people lie all the time.
Well, I think the letter, Mr. Davis
Yeah.
testified to that as well.
Okay, no, which is fine. I just, again, people say things
But-
with their word all the
but
time,
I-
and
Yeah.
no, it's true.
Right, and so, and it was all, carefully removed, and then, the good soil was.
Was there filing done for removing all of this? Nothing was within the buffer zone area?
I mean,
Yes, it
that's what,
is.
well, there was, Rebecca was talking about the machines getting in and out of here. So there was some-
So when we are out on site, we are standing on the edge of those basin areas which have been excavated and are shown in those pictures. You've qualified that, yes, they were excavated, the abutter has. We stood there and I said, don't you think, how long have you been doing this? And you told me, your experience, which is great, and I appreciate that. And then I said, don't you think, and wouldn't you know that you have to file for this? And file a permit for the removal, because per your delineation, it's at least within jurisdictional area under both the Wetlands Protection Act and the local bylaw.
Because
And
of,
you said-
because of this being in the buffer zone here?
I'm saying at the very least,
Mhm.
yes. So, the work's been done,
Mhm.
okay? Obviously, it's a violation. Per your delineation, it's violation, period. We don't know if those, as of right now, no one's made any determinations. Is that potential vernal pool? No one's talked about that yet. We're starting to start that conversation now. How can that even be a determination, because this is what occurred between then and now? And I completely agree, you removed, I have no first-hand images of what it was like before. Does the current or the previous resident have images of that? Are there historical images of that? Is there anyone else who notes that? That would be great to provide that information, before doing this and filing a permit appropriately, especially with your experience, and I appreciate your experience, but that's egregious in my mind. And second of all, now you're saying, I'm gonna build houses there because it's been excavated, or because it's not a resource area, it's not a vernal pool. I don't know if it is or isn't at this point, but this is what it looked like, and it shouldn't have ever looked like this without coming before the commission. And I wasn't here at that time, but I know there's no record of it. Some of the commission members have been here, and nothing was documented. That's egregious to me. So I need that included in the narrative, I think, and I would advise the commission to fully understand what was done, what was there previously, before they make that determination about the vernal pool. Because as of right now, they don't have any information, in my mind. And it's the commission's right to make whatever decision they want, but
Right, there was no fill brining or anything like that. Okay? This is simply just removal of,
of vegetation that grew over dump site. I'm not arguing that there wasn't, that what was removed, I'm not arguing what was dug up, I'm saying something was there, now it's not. Now it's a question of, is this a resource area under a local bylaw regarding the vernal pool, which is what you're asked for a determination. I cannot confidently tell the commission, you have all the information, I have nothing, no other comment, because of this. And I have no knowledge of what was there previously. If I did, maybe I'd feel a little bit more amendable to working towards restoration of what was removed, but there was no respect for the local regulations or the state regulations when this work was done. Even if it was done in the best interest, but nothing was filed for it, so how can I defend that?
So, you know, I looked at all these areas, you know, prior to that. I did the delineation of this entire property.
Mhm.
There was nothing in here that made me think there's a wetland resource area in here. I evaluated soil conditions and vegetation and things like that, you know, even prior to that, through the whole site. So,
Can I ask, did you do this independently, or did you have a financial stake in this at all? Just curious, was this done, were you hired independently, or is this a project that you have money involved in?
no, I had a financial interest in this project.
Okay,
Mhm.
so now it makes it even more difficult, because I gotta say that definitely looks like stuff was gone in and cleared out and allowed to vegetate for a year, and now it's like, well, it doesn't hold water.
No,
I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I'm in the same boat Rebecca is. I don't know what I can say about that vernal pool, other than it's a suspected vernal pool as of now. Everything you're saying about how it's draining, it's true, and we can look this up.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're telling the truth there, but
the
when I see this, I mean, this is the first I've seen. That's some serious gouge outs there.
the purpose.
And again, for you to say no fill was brought in and all that, like again, how do I know no fill was brought in? I mean, I'm just going off your word, and again, I have no reason to doubt you, but again, I'm with Rebecca. This is stuff that should not have been done to a wetland resource area for a wetland biologist to know that. I mean, it's extremely wet back there. It's extremely wet back there. Just to go in and make an eye and say, no, this should be fine. I'm going to go ahead and dig all this stuff out, and then we're going to apply for stuff a year later.
You know, the grade comes down, things get wetter. You
But
know,
why wasn't,
it's
I'm just
probably
curious, why
wetter now
didn't
than it
you
was before.
apply to build these houses when you were going in and clearing this stuff out? Why was this done, time waited, and then this application came in?
Well, for two reasons.
Go ahead.
One, the area was a complete dump, okay? So,
Yeah.
a complete dump. So,
Again, I'll
as a-
take
as
your
a
word for
business-
it, I'll wait until I see pictures. It
Okay,
looks
well-
gorgeous, I mean, it's a beautiful area for some houses back there, it's, our neighbors have houses.
It's gorgeous.
It's quite beautiful.
Because we cleaned up, all, decades worth of dumps, back there. And secondly, is we had to get in there to do the test pits for the Board of Health and,
Makes sense,
we
yeah.
digging through metal and glass and everything else. I mean, feet and
I-
feet worth of stuff.
So, I don't wanna carry on this conversation about what was there, what wasn't there, because no, it's our word against your word against, it's no one knows, there's no
Right.
proof, so it's
If some-
difficult.
if something
If you
was
could
filled, you-
provide information to express what was there,
Mhm.
that's tangible evidence, I think the commission would be in a better place to make a decision about your specific inquiry, but, I mean, I don't know how the commission feels, but versus going back and arguing what was there, what wasn't there, that's a moot point. It was, whatever was there, the area was disturbed and altered. Under your current delineation, it's within the 100-foot buffer, it's in the adjacent upland resource area. That's what's going on. On top of, it's within the two areas that the commission and you are supposed to be assessing for a potential vernal pool. So you have now inquired to the commission, can we determine whether it's a vernal pool or is it not a vernal pool? So I will leave that up to the commission to answer your inquiry, because we have a lot of things on the agenda, and I don't think the back and forth is really getting anywhere.
Right.
Unless you have,
And what we
Specific
what
to
we had
that.
set out to do last fall, as I understood it, was to, let some time go by so we could,
No,
we
that's-
could, you and I could observe in
that's-
the springtime.
That's incorrect. What we did last fall, and we can go back and look at the tape, is we said, that's a suspected vernal pool, we want to see new plans drawn with the suspected vernal pool. That was your marching orders. You chose to wait and say, can we take another look and decide if it's not a vernal pool, which is perfectly fine.
Okay.
But let's not change the narrative. You were told 6, 8, how many months ago now, we want to see new plans with the suspected vernal pool. You chose to wait and ask us to take a second look. That's how we got to where we are tonight. It was not, the commission told you to wait. The commission said Rebecca's gonna go out there. The commission said, that's a suspected vernal pool, we wanna see new plans. And again, I appreciate you asking, saying we didn't do the new plans, we want you to reconsider your opinion.
Right.
Perfectly fine. And again, as Rebecca was saying, and as you can hear, it's tough for us to make that determination, especially this is the first I've seen these pictures. This is bothersome to me. This is, and don't explain why, I'm not gonna get into it. This is very bothersome to me. what I would say is I'm one person, there's 7 members of the commission, right? Is, I don't know if we want to wait a week to get soil bores, or if you can find any other evidence if the trash was taken out of there, the Board of Health said none of that trash was in any way dangerous. If we can see some pictures of what it was like before, any other information you want to give us. And what I would say at that point in time is that we do a roll call vote, right? Is that I poll the entire commission, do you suspect it's a vernal pool, or do you not suspect it's a vernal pool? If majority says it's not a vernal pool, then we can go ahead and try to condition these. If the majority says that it is a vernal pool, we're back to where we were 8 months ago.
What sign
Can we get
data
that?
do we have?
Yeah, so how do we determine at this point, what rules out it being a vernal pool? Is it
Well, I have a
soils,
I mean, I'll
vegetation?
give you a narrative with some information.
Yeah.
I'll narrate as much as I can, find whatever history, soils data, species
Whatever else we can
observations,
see, yeah.
and
And who's doing this review? You?
that's part of that data, and, Rebecca will review the data.
So I can review the data that he submits, but if you're asking for a full review of it, I would say third party to keep it as straightforward as possible. If you are concerned about, because in my mind, it's not correct. If your concern is him doing the data collection, assessing the data collection, it would be the same for me assessing it, looking at it. I understand where you're coming from, but what I'm saying is, if you have a third party, then it's without a question. You're looking at it from the best interest of the specifics. So if you're.
So we want scientific evidence that we can believe.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
That I can see somebody comes to us and says, this is what's here,
Yes.
that we can trust.
This is what's here, or this is what's here, and therefore not here.
Right.
Yes.
But here's my one concern with that. Will they tell us this is what's here now? In other words, is there a reviewer that will take this information and say, it could have been this before everything was taken out, but now it appears to be this? Like, I just don't know.
It's difficult to go back in time, obviously, but they could certainly, once provided with the information of what was removed, and some information on what it was there, it's relatively easy for some specialists and some professionals to assess and say, this is what's here. I'm not saying this is what could have been here, because you can say that about anything, but they can say with this disturbance, with this alteration, it would either
How
come
would
back
that-
right away, or
right.
how it would impact
How long
if
would
there
it
was
take
a
to come
resource
back if it
there.
does come back?
Right.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Question?
I would think that the state of Massachusetts would have a policy about declaration of conflict of interest. If you're financially vested in developing a property and you're doing something like wetlands analysis, I mean, tonight's the first time that this has been admitted to by Scott. And that should have been discussed immediately when these things were submitted, to kind of mitigate this notion of conflict of interest. I'm not a lawyer, but I would think that if there were some kind of code of ethics, for the Massachusetts, Wetlands Society, or that they would have rules and regs about something like this. Because it would be just too easy for somebody to come in and say, no, this is fine, and develop lands that shouldn't be developed.
It's a very good point. And again, I think why we're discussing that third party.
Right.
Other thoughts?
I guess and we've probably said this several times, but what data do we need? How do we get to a point where we can say confidently, these are not vernal pools?
It would probably take a wildlife habitat or wildlife habitat evaluation, which is something that I had mentioned in the very beginning, although it doesn't meet the threshold requiring it under the riverfront area because of the proposed alteration to the riverfront area. It's something you can still request. it's not solely dependent upon riverfront area. But that would at least have someone look at not only those pools, but the potential upland habitat area that breeding species use. And also with amphibians, I mean, it's difficult with vernal pools for me because they're ephemeral, they're seasonal, and at the end of the day, most likely you would have at least one and be able to determine that. But at the end of the day, for some freak reason, they may not be using that pool that year. They use several pools. Some use only one. Some go up. So someone who has that background can assess the entire aspect that contributes to, or the entire relative landscape specific to those pools, and what would use it. Would they be susceptible to using it, or would they not? So that's my 2 cents on it.
Okay.
In terms of what data you would need or what data you'd be looking for.
Do photographs? So the vernal pool has to have water for 2 months, right? Out of the spring or summer months.
Long enough
So do we
long enough
have
to breed the-
consistent data showing that it did not hold water for 2 solid months?
Basically, you need it long enough to, breed
Yeah.
out the species.
Yeah.
Is it
Right.
possible
So-
to bring somebody in at this point and make a determination, or is it too late in
Yeah.
the season?
I mean, we're right in the prime season, because all the species are now, this would be the perfect time for it.
What do you think?
I mean, like Scott had mentioned, you have species that start March, April, continue until now. Now you have more of the adult species. But, yeah, I mean, you could bring someone in now, but they may say, kind of late in the season for some species where you might not find egg masses, or you may find empty egg masses, which are still fine. You might not find the breeding adults of some species, but others you may. You may find more insect-based indicators versus others. But, I mean, that's my viewpoint, but sort of to Emily's question to you, did you document the pool consecutively, or the potential vernal pools consecutively to disprove that it doesn't hold water?
I mean, I have photos in this year, a bunch of different pages that I can compile with you,
I think
but,
that would be a start, because the commission seems to be asking for tangible data, and they have nothing but you summarizing what you saw, and then summarizing what
We
you saw.
can't base our findings off of yesterday, there wasn't much water in it. I
Right.
can't say, oh, okay, then it's not a vernal
Well,
pool,
I
and we're
mean,
gonna fill it in.
There's a
put house
sense in
in.
which almost actually, that is relevant data, because if there were species that bred this season, they would have to be there right now,
Yep.
because they would. and they-
Yeah, it's all relevant, but I think the
I
point
think we
is
just
not
need
just
more than one day, is what I'm
snapshot,
saying,
but-
it's kind of like
Yeah.
one individual day
Mhm.
that understanding the pattern of the water, I guess, in those basins
Right.
over a prolonged period of time. Not just one day it was like this and then like a month later I saw that, I feel like that's just too isolated
Sure.
to really come to a, I wouldn't mind getting back out there too, to see if that's, we were out last week after weeks and weeks of rain and there was quite a bit of water in there, so,
If you wanna go, take a walk.
okay, we can just go anytime, okay.
Tomorrow morning.
Get a bunch of ticks.
Yeah.
There is a lot of ticks.
I sprayed myself too and I left there with 4.
Alright, so where does
Okay.
that leave us?
Can we get, another opinion on whether it's vertical or not?
Can we get an independent look at that?
I mean, I can have, Dan Wells go out and do, the certification of the ones.
So I think their point is a third party.
That's possible too.
I believe that's the point of them having someone else go out and look at it. You're more than welcome to have him go out too. if he's the individual who's going to be doing the narrative and establishing further data, but I'm pretty sure, and the commission can correct me if I'm wrong, they're looking for a third party not associated with your business.
Yeah.
And those pictures just scare me too. That's my only issue. My other issue too is I see that and I'm like, what stops somebody from pulling egg masses out of there? I mean, what stops somebody from going in there and ripping out all proof of any vernal pool activity and then calling up and saying, oh, come on in and do the review.
Or scraping.
When I see that,
soil.
that's the first thing I think of. Like,
Right.
did somebody go down in the pool? Did you throw something in the water to kill everything off? And then wait a year and it's like, hey, nothing's in here. That's great, and that's not something we can reward or allow to happen. So that's my other feeling. Like, what is a third party? Does it tell us what was there, what wasn't there? Is it going to be able to say, oh, there were probably egg masses in here, and somebody killed them all off a year and a half ago, cleared everything out of here, dug it all out, That's the only thing.
Eggs are relayed every year.
What's that?
Eggs are relayed.
Yeah, I know, but not if you go in and rip up the vernal pool, right? If you rip all the topsoil off, change the size of the pool, take the sides down out a bit, rip out a lot of the plants that were in there, all of a sudden it's not a viable pool.
No.
It seems like it's such a defined pool, or at least it was such a defined pool. And again, I was out there, I did see frog activity. This was a year ago. This year when I was in there, I did not.
Well, there's no question that, adults, pass that away through and we, use
Squirrels in the water.
use the,
Yeah, no, I know
Oh,
that
squirrels,
design.
squirrels.
Yes.
Living
Oh,
in
look,
the
that's
water.
about a vernal pool.
Yeah.
Squirrels. I mean, there's frogs in the water.
So it sounds like the commission
We don't know.
is requesting more
Right.
information
Right.
regarding your specific inquiry for this evening. And it sounds like continuation may be beneficial to receive that information. But that's just what I'm gathering. I could be wrong.
It seems that way. 'Cause I don't know what else we could decide tonight.
I want proof that it's not a vernal pool, I guess, is the end, at the end of the day. I just want a definitive proof that tells me, okay, it's not a vernal pool.
Yeah.
I just can't, in good conscience,
I mean, that's-
even consider filling this in until I know that it is absolutely not a vernal pool. And I don't feel like I have enough evidence to tell me, to make that conclusion.
I'll provide you with the individual looking for.
Okay.
Well, I think we're looking for a third-party reviewer to provide that. Not the person, but not your information at this point. After seeing those pictures, I don't want to see your information. I want to see a third party.
If we're gonna do third party review, it'd be best to start that sooner than later, so that
Yep.
they can know. So you and I can talk about.
So I will send you a couple options
Okay.
that the commission's used in the past, if the commission's fine with that. Or do you wanna see the options first?
To choose,
Yeah.
why don't we take a look at the options? I'd like to see the options and who they are.
Okay, so that would put us until June, our next meeting.
Can we just come down and talk?
I think it'd be, I think we should talk.
You could talk to me individually.
This came to us 8 months ago. They decided to wait 8 months. If we have to wait another 8 months, I don't care.
So
It was
why-
their decision to wait 8 months without giving a crap, and not coming in with the plans we requested. We waited 8 months, we carried it over, we finally opened the public meeting and was like, yeah, we haven't made any changes, we're hoping you'll change your mind. So if this takes another 8 months, I don't care. I'm not in a rush to get this project done. I don't think they've done anything to make me think they need special accommodations to get it done quick and try and be fast with this. With that resource area, fine, review, I'd like to see the third-party reviews, I'd like to fully review that, vote on which one we use, let them get their information. Hopefully it's not too late in the season, they don't have to wait another year, we'll see. But again, sometimes they'll try to move fast if people are trying to move fast. If they wait a year, then, all right, if you're fine waiting a year, I'm not in any rush.
So
That's kind of where I'm at.
regarding shortening reviewing, we can't, so you can review the information I provide to you in terms of whom you would like to use, but you cannot make a decision outside of the public
Correct.
meeting process, so we would still have to come back to the public.
What was the other option that you had mentioned? Could you select one? Or no?
I
You
could
can
select
approve
one.
one of our
I just
three
feel like
plans
Out
that
of,
we've
out
used.
of a collective group of ones that have been used in the past,
Yeah,
I can just send that to, because it's at the applicant's, expense, thank you. It's at the applicant's expense, so I'd be sending him a group of consultants or wildlife biologists, individuals who in the past we've used and have been successful and have had no problems reviewing what they've determined. And then he basically, either he can choose or he can provide me back with who he would prefer, and then I would reach out to them.
I just feel like as far as not, I understand your point about not pushing too quickly with this, but I feel like to have them out to look at the vernal pools is kind of a time sensitive, no? Just- it
Yeah,
is
well, I
time
mean,
sensitive.
they might have to wait another year. I mean, again, had it started at the beginning of the season, would have been fine. Had last year,
Right.
had contracted somebody or contractor, and said, hey, you know what, next year we're gonna come back and test your ruling and ask you to change your mind,
Mhm.
we would have said, no, just hire a third-party reviewer 8
Yeah.
months ago.
Right, right.
And the other thing with the reviewers, and one of the reasons why I want to see them, is I want Rebecca to ask, not so much can they just go in and say, is this a vernal pool now?
Mhm.
That can they provide us with, what kind of information can they provide us with, knowing that a lot of topsoil was removed, a lot of things were removed out here.
Mhm.
Can they provide us with information, what do they think would have been here? Do they think this would have hurt it? You know, their
So
standard
would it still
is this,
be
I'm afraid
viable?
they'll go out and they would do their standard review of, is this the vernal pool? Which is great, but I want to see someplace that says, no, we're gonna look at what's happened here historically. We're gonna take all the information that you gave us and we're gonna try to make conclusions based off that. And include that in our work, and I'm afraid some of our usuals, that's not something they do. I think some would say that's not something we can do.
Yeah.
But I don't want to hire a peer reviewer unless they can take in that information, because that's important information.
Yep.
And again, if we allow somebody to go in, rip something up, wait a
Well,
year, and then apply to us, like, people are gonna do that from here on out. Why
Now,
not?
how would they determine that soils had been removed? Looking at the
I mean,
bases
you
of
can-
trees and things like that? The
You can just
habitat,
see, like in those images, you can see where it's been excavated, you can see the machine tracks, you can
Right.
see everything. In addition, while you're out there, you can see that there's been scours, it's been covered, some vegetation has come up, so, but it doesn't look like it's just been settled
right.
there. Which I think the original conversation was, oh, they were old gravel pits or something like that. Which we have those all over town, so
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I need someone to show me that, especially after seeing that things were removed from that area.
Mhm.
But, so what an assessment would do is just not predate to what was existing there, but rather say, if this potential vernal pool, or if there was a vernal pool here that was viable, would it still be viable and be able to succeed through such an alteration?
Okay.
That's what they would be, that's what I would request or suggest to the commission to request me to ask them, inquire about, because I mean, anywhere, you can't really go back in time.
Right.
So it's very difficult, so in that sort of assessment, it's just saying this type of an alteration, this type of a disturbance,
Okay.
would that type of a resource still be viable?
Got it. Okay. That makes sense.
Which is, I mean, I know we'll get everybody's, but that's what I'm looking for as
Okay.
part of a review. I kind of want to see that, or at least a company that can attempt to explain as best they can, or even say, you know, we don't know for sure, but we would expect X, Y, and Z. Makes sense?
Yeah.
This maybe the next step. Any other public comment on Century Mill Road?
I just want to reiterate, this is raw soil that we see in these photographs, and it is gonna perk pretty well. If there was 4 inches of organic matter, a mat of organic matter on top, water would perk at a much slower rate, and I think you'd see much more water out there than what you're seeing right now. Even maybe, let's just say hypothetically, it's on the edge of being within the pool right now. In 5 years, with 5 years accumulation of organic matter, and it's holding water for a longer period of time, might return to a more rich vernal pool, as I think it was in the past. You know, I've said, I walk up and down the alley, you know, the old cart path that's behind us, I know this is anecdotal, but there were lots of frogs. I go stand in my backyard, you go and stand in your backyard. They hear me going out.
Right.
They're dead quiet. And I can just, they start in a Boy Scout property, and they go like this, this, this. Now, I don't know what species are tooting away out there, but it's a cacophony.
Yeah.
Something's living there. Thank you.
So your permission will continue to our next meeting, if that's all right? Do we have times?
Yeah, 7 is fine.
What day is it?
Either, we have June 4th, June 18th, July 2nd, July 16th.
We should do the next one, I would think. I mean, so you're
Well,
gonna,
so-
you're gonna basically do your inquiries prior to, is that the way you're thinking?
Correct, just, the commission needs to determine when their next meeting date is.
Oh, I get you.
Yeah. So yeah, we don't have any past May. June 4th is 2 weeks.
So normally do the first and third Tuesday of each
Yeah.
month. So if we want to continue with that, because I know Board of Health meets the opposing Tuesdays.
Yep.
So we would have open right now, the 4th, the 18th, this July 2nd, and July 16th.
The 4th work for people, 18th?
Right,
And then we'll continue to the 4th, and if we don't have anything, then we can continue with that.
Okay.
That makes sense. All right, so I'd like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for 21 Century Mill Road's proposed driveway improvements to our next meeting, June 4th at 7 o'clock.
Yep.
Second?
All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye. I'd like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for Lot 3 Century Mill Road until our next meeting, June 4th at 7:05.
Yep.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to propose, make a motion that we continue our public hearing for Lot 4 Century Mill Road until our next meeting, June 4th at 7:10.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Hi.
And I'd like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for Lot 2 Century Mill Road until our next meeting, June 4, 2019 at 7:15 p.m. All those in favor? Aye. All right, so continued.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
We can go to 8:50 here. Can we start that one at 8:10? Yes, I think so.
What?
The 0 South Bolton Road.
The typo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good decision.
What? Oh, so now we, oh my gosh. Would we have-
Okay. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Norse Environmental on behalf of the applicant for the proposed verification of a resource area setbacks located at 0 South Bolton Road, map 2.c, and parcel 15.1, public meeting to begin this evening.
Good evening, my name is Jim Warren. Steve Ertz is supposed to be here, but he's running late, but I'll continue, because I know you guys have a full agenda. This is the map that I'm looking around. Just a conceptual, I know I'm not here for that, but what we're here to discuss was we were trying to, at the last meeting, just to have the commission agree to the kind of delineation that was done on this wetland resource area here. And that's all we're here for
And
tonight.
delineation, just talking about the bound.
The location of the flags only.
Right, so just the bounds, not what it is.
Yeah,
not
no
offsets
definitions, just
associated.
Yeah,
Okay.
just
the
clear
bounds
straight up.
itself.
Yeah.
Just to abbreviate, yeah, here's Steve, come on up, Steve. Good job. I was just mentioning to the commission that we're just looking for them to agree to the wetland boundary line, the flag locations over.
Yeah, it may be something on site, but we haven't been able to ascertain that boundary yet.
We're just talking about this one
Right.
for this, yeah. I don't know who had a chance to go out to see it. Any questions, thoughts, concerns? Were you good with the flagging around it?
Yeah, so I didn't, my only question was, there was between, I think, two flags right on the corner. Here, there was some vegetation that sort of spewed out a little bit, and I just
Right.
wanted to confirm that wasn't impacting it, but it didn't seem to be enough of a dominant cover there, after looking back in the regulations, to cause the flags to basically shift out anyway, in that, for that resource area. So the flags are basically at the toe of the slope, I guess you could say, of the berm around it. So I'm comfortable with the location of the flags anyways.
Yeah, and then one other thing, I know you had asked us to address an issue about in this location, what I call the ear wing. So it looks like an airplane wing.
Yeah, there was two, but
Yeah,
yes.
well, they're right on the edge of the property at this location.
Mhm.
I went out there and looked at it, we had a conversation with Steve about it, and anything that would pertain to this in the future, when we file the notice of intent,
Yep.
if we need a variance, we'd go for that. But once you pull 100 feet, this unit may be barely in or maybe barely out.
And that's what I figured,
Yeah.
being out there in the field, when you're standing out by it, if you turn around and look back at where those berms are, I mean, like I stated in the last meeting, I don't know if it will impact your project, but certainly, yes, when you file a notice of intent, I would delineate those, have them so it's
Right.
clear, there's no
Yeah, the
question.
closest one is on the property. GC Wilson from Clinton was out here for other reasons, but they did locate this line.
Yeah.
And, when I went out to the wetland, I was clearly on my property
In that
from
level.
his survey lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know I was on the property, so then when you pull 100 feet,
Oh, I see
I
what
did.
you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can, what I'm getting in short, we can delineate that when we go file the notice of intent. It is on our property.
So, and that's both areas there?
Yeah, well, one might be slightly off, but I think it touches on the property, so I'd be pulling. I wouldn't be able to do the whole delineation of the resource
So
area.
you'd be pulling the closest point?
Yes,
anyway.
yeah. And it's very small.
Is anybody here tonight to comment on 0 South Bolton Road? So if you can state your name
Yep,
first,
Phil
please.
Fournier, 31 Spectacle Hill Road. Our property's at the bottom, and the entrance to Century Mill.
Gotcha.
Our front yard is a wetlands with a vernal pool, and our backyard is this project, and we've had concerns for a while. And I haven't attended previous commission meetings, so I'm not sure I understand this flagging, what the question is. Could I come up to the table and you can
Yeah,
explain
please
that
do.
to
So
me?
what the question is, he is going to be filing, or the applicant will be filing a full notice of intent. So at this time, what's before the commission, well, knowing that he will be filing a full notice of intent for the proposed project, the structures, the full wetlands delineation, they're just looking for the extent of that vernal pool. So not talking about
Just the
offsets
same
from the
Vernal
vernal
pool's on
pool.
our property, so that's what I need to know. We
Right.
have, just as an FYI, if you give me a minute,
Sure.
we have the runoff from Century Mill Estates, which has been a bit of a disaster. We've had, we have the front of our property on 31 Spectacle Hill Road is wet. There's a big pond behind 5 Spectacle Hill. There's a smaller pond that's on the map. The combining of these two projects is squeezing our property, and I think potentially could have environmental impacts. So, and I'm not sure I trust people who do independent reviews on this. I just want to make sure the commission is well aware of the impact that this has, which I know you guys are. So this particular meeting is a very specific,
Correct.
so could you explain to me what you're
So-
talking about with the flags?
It is specifically, if you see that light, this light green coloring, which isn't overlaid exact, but basically all it's saying is this light green coloring, those flags that are GPS located, I would assume, on site there, or survey located, excuse me. That's all we're talking about, is around, so the vernal pool is that, so whether it's.
This is
an
on
i-
our property, right? here.
Correct.
So whether it's an isolated land subject to flooding, whether it's a bordering vegetated wetland, whether it's a potential vernal pool, we're not talking about the definition of that resource area, we're talking about the boundaries. So the boundaries meaning just that itself. So he's showing the offset just as a precautionary, but we're not talking about the structures, we're not talking about offsets yet. So when he files the notice of intent, we will be talking about this, we'll be talking about this, we'll be talking about all of this.
Does any pre-existing work that's been done in the past year impact this boundary and impact the decision where these flags are made? Because there's been a lot of work that's being done for the past year.
So I was out prior to or right when the work had started, and there were barely any tracks up that cart path that had some saplings from previously, but that isolated area has always been there. And I don't believe it's changed. It's still holding water. My concern would be if there's a depression there and it's not holding any water. That's when I would say, okay, maybe up gradient, there's some concerns about impact to that, but I saw none. While I was out there, like I said previously, to see what work was going on, if any. In addition to that, being out there since, it doesn't look like it's changed regarding that resource area in terms of the boundaries of it, because it's so isolated. If it wasn't isolated, in terms of even just the topography, which hasn't been changed, in terms of from here down, and this is all
Well,
isolated here.
this side maybe, but this side has been significantly impacted and this has too.
Well, there's that, the pathway, I understand.
Well, it's a wider gravel pathway if anybody's been down.
Right, yep,
Which
so,
borders this right here. I'm just looking for good faith from the builder and the contractor. I'm
Yes.
looking for good faith for the town taxpayer who's been here for 30 years, who's getting squeezed by these projects.
yeah.
And that's what, and we've been to two other hearings on this, and there's been a few other things said. I know this is a very specific thing with that flag.
Yeah, and
I guess I can accept it.
Yeah, and so, I mean, as an abutter, do you have specific to that boundary? So basically, on site, it's just showing the toe of the slope around that isolated basin. So that's establishing the resource area, whether it's isolated land subject to flooding, whether it's potential vernal pool, whatever the definition may be, it's just the boundaries at this time. That's the way that they have filed, because we know there's a larger filing coming in, and so that they can continue their engineering. And that's not atypical to do it that way. But do you have any concerns as it is on your property in terms of, do you feel that is a reasonable?
The specific question,
Regarding the
flagging
isolated,
the isolated thing. Well, no, but I have significant concerns over the bigger impact that
Of course,
this entire project, which is not the intent of this meeting.
of course, yes.
It just needs some reassurance.
Let me give you one of my cards.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Well, you wasn't call me at any time.
I would have an independent surveyor and an independent conservationist or environmentalist, and not rely like you did on the previous one. You did the same thing, to want an independent person to look at the impact. This isn't the purpose of this meeting, I understand.
No, correct, and so
So-
with, just like we've seen in other, and I'm not gonna drag this on too long, but as we've seen in other 40Bs that have come before, or even other large significant developments, where all the department heads basically go on site visits together. We have other engineers and other third parties, or not engineers, well, yeah, engineers, third-party consultants. We have that done, and that's during the due diligence period, when we have a filing specific to those alterations. It's not uncommon, like I said, the way that they're approaching this is to define that resource area because it seems to be the most encroaching on the project if it does have that 100-foot offset, and that will be determined with the notice of intent. But, so again, it's not uncommon, and that's why we're looking at it, but it's not to say we're not looking at, in the future, when they do come forward with the full project, we're not going to be fully diving into it.
Appreciate that, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions tonight for 0 South Walton Road? Any thoughts, questions, concerns? Say, I went out to this property, to my untrained eye, it looked like it was flagged correctly. I looked around. If you don't have major concerns that the flagging is significantly off, all right. In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing for request for determination of applicability for 0 South Bolton Road.
Second.
All those in favor?
I'm gonna ask that we vote if possible, and then some, oh wait, one second. Since I don't think I would draft for that document. Of the actual determination, unless you want to, you can vote and then come into my office and sign it,
Gotcha.
if you would like.
Just fine.
It's fine.
That's-
Yep.
All right. So, this is a new one, we just agree with flagging. It's not a negative, is it, or is it a negative? Sorry, I had to ask that one, I'm sorry, you're on, it's a...
That's why I wanted to draft document.
Actually be positive, because the work is within 100 feet. We will be doing work within.
Yeah, no, this is because all we're doing is saying that we agree with the flagging, so I don't know what, sometimes it's a negative that we agree.
What is the shield line?
It's a 100-foot offset to the resource area as flagged. We've been, from the start of this project, we've been always trying to protect that, no matter what we call it.
Sorry.
No,
Didn't
I
this was gonna be
apologize.
The same one with this one over here, there's another resource area over here, which is off the property, down gradient from the project. But we also flagged and located that by instrument Ducharme, Phyllis did it. So we, just so we don't have any structures or any septics within any resource area.
So well, there's two things. You either issue a positive determination or a negative determination. The options within each, I would have to look at something, because I don't know them verbatim, but basically the positive is meaning they need to file a notice of intent, and negative is saying they don't need to file a notice of intent because it's non-jurisdictional. Their request was specifically to whether the area depicted on plans referenced below is an area subject to jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act, whether the area or work depicted on the plans referenced below is subject to the jurisdiction of any municipal wetland bylaw. And no work is proposed at this time. We are requesting the commission review an excavated depression of isolated wetland located on the adjacent property and leave visible. So with that, how it's worded, it's a positive determination. You're correct.
Yeah, well,
But, and you're going to be filing a notice of intent anyways, which you were well aware of. And in the document, I will note that the boundaries of the area specific to the plans I have, which are the existing conditions South Boulder Road, map 2C lot 15.1, date 8/21/18, that the boundaries are flagged correctly of the resource area, not inclusive of offsets.
So,
Does that make sense?
it totally does. Would that be a vote tonight because we don't know what the positive determination is? Or now that we've closed it, do we want to just write it up and vote next time? I don't know.
Totally up to you.
Why don't we do that? Why don't we let you write it up and we can vote on it next time? Because that way we'll get the wording right as to the positive X determination and it. Okay. So basically what it means is we closed it, we'll vote on it next time. There's no existing questions. Everybody's comfortable with the flagging as it is. So I would say you should be comfortable going forward. I think. And then in 2 weeks, we should just be able to sign off on it.
We got many more meetings to go to.
Yeah, I
We're not going
guess we'll
anywhere.
be doing this for a while.
Yeah,
We'll be
yeah,
seeing
no,
you guys again, I'm sure, and all
Yep.
that. Okay.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
All
All
right.
right, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Who's second to close that?
I like the long thought process.
Yeah.
It's getting like,
We're relatively back, right? 6:26, right? There's always a lot going on in Bolton. All right.
here for that, I'm going to assume they request Victor's reference,
Right.
because you can over.
All right, let me, okay. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the notice of intent filed by Jack Holbrook on behalf of the applicant for the proposed fire pond inclusive of dry hydrant to be installed in an existing basin located at 626 Main Street. Public meeting begin right now. Do we have an update?
We do. The conversation last time was that we continued it to wait for a natural endangered species program to come back regarding the potential vernal pool, along with the issuance of the DEP file number. I was able to reach out to both. I have not heard back from Natural Heritage, but they stated it'll take about 3 months anyways. In addition to that, I did reach out to DEP. They issued the file number. I had a conversation with the circuit rider prior regarding that the filing, there was an administrative issue and they just had to file something to supplement, meaning they just checked the wrong box. It was checked as single family versus other, which is a limited project, so they just wanted that cleaned up for their files, our files, to smooth it out. There was a slight increase of a filing fee, and for the state, it will most likely be an increase locally as well. My question is, because it's a fire pond, because they've already paid the filing fee, and DEP left that up to us and did not include that in their comments, obviously, what we do about that? Do we request the supplemental fee, or is it just the way it
I
is?
thought they were exempt anyway.
Fire So, okay, that's how you
We
feel
don't need
that's
to
fine.
request yet,
In
yeah.
addition to that, they had just requested again, the information be filed correctly, so again, it's section 7B, they should have checked off a different category than what was there, and then they just have to fill out the fee transmittal form to reflect the actual fees, which isn't substantial. But as far as that, again, those were the only two comments on the DEP feedback, was specific to just correcting that administrative error, and then they said they had no issues so long as locally we had no concerns, but we're also still waiting for natural heritage, so.
And the applicants aren't here tonight, correct?
Nope.
All right, anybody here tonight to comment on 626 Main Street? In that case, we see lots logical to continue? I would imagine they would, because we're gonna wait for Natural Heritage anyways, right?
Yeah.
What am I up to, 7:20? I think I did him 7, 7:05, 7:10, 7:15, so we'll go
So you
7.
I don't know, close that,
Yeah.
yes.
I'll go
correct.
7:25, because that will give Scott a half an hour. Maybe I should go 7:30.
So to June.
All right. And I think I'm gonna go 7:30, go with Scott on the full half, which makes sense. All right. I would like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for 626 Main Street until our next meeting, June 4th at 7:30 PM.
Second.
All those in favor? So
Second
continued.
tonight?
How quick he is. Okay. All right. You ready for 356? All right. Yeah, thank you. All right, so the Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Circle B Hammerdown Construction on behalf of the applicant for a proposed 26 by 48 by 8 post-frame pavilion with truss roof design on screw piles on the property located at 356 Main Street. Public meeting to begin right now. Hi.
It's all ground out from Circle B. What do we, I'm not sure what's that.
Oh, just what are we proposing to do?
Oh.
Yeah, that's it. All right.
And where?
And where? Yeah.
There's the pavilion, this is just a flyer on the screw piles, and in the interest of not disturbing, no excavation.
Okay.
And
Some of these other places now, too.
is the idea that you guys would like that better than us digging holes.
Propose where the tent is now, is that correct?
This one?
Is the pavilion going where the tent is now?
Except it's opposite side,
The opposite.
opposite side of the tank, it's over this side, after it's ready here.
So the.
The tent's over there?
Oh, the tent, you said,
Yeah.
that's the tank, yes, the tent is right in this
Oh,
side,
okay,
yeah.
yep.
So, I think the issue is that we're within the 100, the wetland outline, we're within the 100 buffer. This is about 20 feet higher in elevation than this line here. So it's not like it's
How far away are
about 60 feet. And basically it's,
And that's currently what,
excuse me?
the area there, what is,
This is the pavilion, the size of the pavilion.
well, what's there now?
Grass.
Grass. I'm not sure how I just did 60 feet off that, scaled it. But it's, like I said, 20 feet higher than the lowland down here. It's, this is all the plateau up here, and then this goes down behind.
What's the ground gonna be underneath the pavilion?
Concrete.
Concrete slab.
And the property, is that the top of the slope, and then it drops down to the wetland, correct? And where is, I know I should have brought the other plans from here. There's a, like a patio area here already that's landscaped, the
Yes.
fence comes out. I know it's beyond the tent.
Yeah, it's down in here.
Yep.
We just hope to host small weddings,
Event.
baby showers, bridal showers, and things like that, just to have some sort of coverage and feel off of that.
Currently just existing lawn,
Do you have
right?
any pictures by any chance of that area?
I do,
I mean, the lawn, the topsoil has to come up to put the concrete down. That's, there's no digging, there's no digging holes. We have to take the topsoil off.
Gonna be kind of the idea of what the winery is supposed before they enclosed it. It's gonna be the idea of how the winery's pavilion was before they enclosed it, on that miniature open sided.
It's gonna be, we're gonna leave it open side for the time being, I don't plan on, building in the winter time, so the fire codes and whatnot, so. It's just the tents are just, pain and expensive and over time.
That's what
they
they
speak.
get.
If we had something more permanent, it's gonna look nice, I wanna mirror, the post of the instructor, what's inside the building, outside, it'd be nice to, see town meetings, but the town to use it. I know we've got the building inside of the town as well, so it's gonna, similar to that.
I like the idea of outdoor town meetings.
Wouldn't
Wouldn't it?
you have with pizza and beer and
Oh,
much
we did that.
higher?
We did that. We had a couple of economic development meetings down at Slater's, and they were videotaped, and,
You'd have a much higher turnout.
Yeah. Is anybody here tonight to comment on this project? All right. Do you have thoughts, concerns?
I don't, just because of the nature of it, and the fact that it's within a landscaped area, it's within the fenced area. The
Yeah.
top of the slope drops down to the wetland. It's not right on the edge, to my understanding, of that slope.
And yeah, as I say, the runoff from the tent really hasn't caused any gouging or anything crazy that we can see, because it's already kind of,
No,
we've already had a
that's a good
roof
point,
thing
too.
there,
So it's a tent there right now?
Yep.
small, 20 by 30.
And this proposed is 26 by 48 by 8. By 8, did I write that down?
And is that the height of the posts and the roof comes up from there?
Here.
The entire dimension.
Right, yeah, that's all right.
And so, can you just explain the screw piling, how the screw
That
piling
was
is
my
playing into
question.
this? Because I understand you have you're doing the cement slab, or concrete slab. So are the screw pilings going, how does that play into
Need
this?
them? Yeah.
Or are you saying
Yeah,
these are
yeah,
or?
sorry.
We would lay it out, and everywhere there's a post, I'd have a screw pile
Okay,
going down under each post. And then we'll frame, after the screw piles go down, we'll frame the perimeter and pour the concrete.
I see what you're saying.
And take it and close the stuff.
Have you clad the steel posts in wood?
Yeah, so there's the screw piles, it's an interesting concept. So when they start screwing down, there's a gauge that they go down until it gets enough friction.
Right.
And then it gauges, and then it gives you the, vertical download pressure versus, and the same uplift, so the building doesn't blow away. And then, basically, we're gonna, there's a bracket that you attach your post to. And then, in the concrete,
So
basically
they go up
So
to
you
like
don't-
grade,
yeah,
the screw piles, and then you,
You don't need the building doesn't need the concrete slab, roof does.
right,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, the building, just the screw pile and the post on top of it will be secure, both from download and uplift.
So the slabs, the screw piles are the foundation, I know that's not.
Call something like
So-
sonotubes, right?
Yeah, so basically holding it, cement slab is aesthetic and flooring, basically.
Correct.
Okay. Clear. I was a little confused.
What's the grade there right now?
What is
The
that?
grade is flat,
Yes.
Yeah, it's all
and
flat.
to the downhill side of that, any kind of siltation, I mean, we're
Yeah.
removing soil and we're pouring in cement. So obviously there needs to be some kind of erosion control. You know, you've got overspill of cement.
Yep, I mean, well,
Do you have
the,
anything
the, the down,
proposed?
the edge is, we're not right on the edge, it's not, so we're
No,
not.
but so just, I think she's talking about
You're still within
During construction.
60 feet.
Oh, you
We've
say you
had
want
sites where
erosion control, I'll be happy to.
soil at a level area and it migrates all the way
Yeah.
down
Yeah.
across the street, so.
Um,
Would you, do you have anything that you typically use on different sites or that you would prefer?
It's just this, well, it's up to you guys, but it's just a silt fence or, I don't know.
Round,
round
sock,
sock.
Yeah.
socks,
I'm trying to picture, like wattles would
I
probably,
think wattles would be sufficient
Yeah, I
for
would think so.
taking up
Trying to
drainage
picture
on
where it is.
topsoil.
Would that be fine?
Wattles.
And when you're removing the topsoil, are you relocating on your property?
Probably, yeah, I'll probably relocate the property, so,
You
yeah.
know, dips and valleys like that.
So stockpiling outside of 100 feet and used within landscaped areas as necessary.
You got that yard job.
Um,
Septic system was challenging, I tell you. Wish I could get the electrical line, that was just.
Other questions, thoughts? Okay, all right. In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing for 356 Main Street.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. I'd like to make a motion that we negative 5
So,
determinations again,
-5
right?
is with the exemption, and then you can add any conditions. It's -6, I can't remember what number it is, but there's one that it's issued because it's non-jurisdictional. And it, or as proposed, it's not jurisdictional, but you can condition it. That's the draft there.
What do I have to do with the 5? I can't remember between 5 and 3,
5 is the exemption.
right? You say it is jurisdictional, but it's exempt, I don't know what that's really.
I mean,
6 is, no, what's 3? Why can't I remember these ever?
You're not using that much.
No, well, we use them, the RDAs, and every time it's a struggle for me to remember what the heck number is what. That's perfectly fine, I apologize for that.
no, I should.
After enough times, I should remember. I don't know if we've ever used 1, 2, or 4, it's usually 3 or 5,
Yeah.
sometimes 6. Of course not, it never does anything.
What's the roof made out of, just out of curiosity?
I'm sorry?
What's the roof made out of, just out of curiosity? Is it tin roof or did you put on?
That was a good team,
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah.
Green, right? Anyway.
Unless the conservation board says otherwise.
Yeah, I think, oh, it has to be red.
But
Of course not. Let's see,
no, that's what I was looking for before.
like most people
No,
should do.
yeah, I
I know. It's 5, it's jurisdictional but minimal, or is that 3?
You did 5. 5 is the exemption.
Yeah, exempt, all right.
You would just say negative determination established which
like to make a motion that we have a negative determination for the request for determination for 356 Main Street with the following conditions, that either straw wattles or, that either stake straw wattles or similar appropriate erosion controls be used on site during construction, and that any materials removed or to be brought in are stockpiled outside of the resource area. Does that cover it when you finish writing it down? Okay. In that case, do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
All those,
Who is the second to close the,
yeah.
thank you.
We've moved and had a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we should. Sure.
So, negative means we can do it.
Yeah.
Clarification
Not a
purposes,
bad
a lot of
thing.
people get confused. I will have that document ready, the commission will come in to sign it. Once they've all signed it, it's been formally issued, I'll give you a call, you can come pick it up.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
No,
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
Okay. We have two individuals here to talk about updates regarding the retaining wall restoration work part of 4042 Hudson Road. The recondition, oh no, we have, sorry,
One more,
one
but-
moment.
But no, if they're here to talk, we can, because nobody's here for the COC, correct?
Yeah, that's not a public hearing.
Yeah, so we can wait off on that if they want. Yeah, please.
And which one of you approved our beaver? So, we came in a while ago to talk about a retaining wall that we need to have done on this,
Yes.
on
Yeah.
this wonderful piece of property.
It is wonderful.
It really is.
Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, yes.
These guys' issues.
Yeah.
And all I have right now, all we can get from the guy who's doing the wall is this really brief thing here that says he's putting in, we're currently working with a post and panel retaining wall company out of the Midwest to have their panels made at a precast dealer around here to save on trucking. As far as the equipment needed, we would use a mini excavator and a skid steer, as well as a crane. They're gonna put the crane in the parking lot, in the driveway rather, and reach over everything to drop those things in, so we don't have to bring big vehicles down there. And the railroad ties will be brought to McConnell Enterprise for recycling. And that's the information that we have to share with you tonight. He did tell us how much it's gonna cost. That's like the
Not
first thing he
official.
told us.
So just a brief update, so the commission did issue an order of conditions on this project, specifically renovations specific to the house. The erosion controls have been in place since then, and they won't be removed until the COC's been issued. The commission at the time requested that the loorings go back in just prior to starting construction on the retaining wall because of the proximity to the resource area. They provide information on what equipment's to be used. Is there any suggestions the commission needs to make? I think the fact that the crane's being used, they're not extremely heavy equipment, even though, a mini excavator and skid steer can be heavy for an area that close, but does the commission have any concerns, questions beyond that? with that update?
Yeah.
Fine with that?
There's just one stump that, it's actually not in the photo, but it was right here that we had left when the trees
Yeah.
had to come down. That, is really gonna prohibit them coming down this path to come from the top in. And so we wanted to have that stump, not ground, but just cut flat with the path. Because right now it's raised.
Cut down.
Yeah, you can cut it flat
Yeah.
if you're not stump grinding.
You know,
That's fine.
no.
Yeah.
So it's not an issue at all. Question, because there are some saplings that have grown up over the last 15 years that never were there, which are now right where the wall needs to be replaced. Is that something we can work on removing now before they start work?
That's a question for the commission, I feel, but
When is it? Well, we don't start on.
We don't know.
We don't know when
Start.
he's gonna start
Yeah.
doing the walls.
Yeah, this is dragging along
Yeah,
as we thought.
yeah, it's real close.
Those saplings have to come out though, because they're right where the walls go in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they've grown up over 15 years of neglect on the property.
so who isn't familiar with this project? So basically, it was two houses, or two camps on one lot. They brought one up to par, and then are working on the other, or potentially gonna file in the future for that one. And obviously, it had been left to just sit, and they've been working to sort of revive that. So that's why you have a lot of this young growth coming up in areas that you would typically maintain. But that was there. It is very close, obviously, to West Pond. This is seen a lot along the pond, I found, where there are old camps or old cottages, and it's existing. So it's either you repair it, or you replace it, or you maintain it. And in this circumstance, I don't think it's easier to replace it. And that's what the commission agreed upon initially. But the concern was, because of that, as you can see, proximity to the resource area, what equipment would be used? Would it have impact to the resource areas if it was like a larger piece of equipment coming in? Or would additional erosion controls need to be in place as well?
And they're using an existing path, right?
Yes.
I think we had talked about that before.
Yes.
So the machines are going down an existing path.
Yeah, the crane could actually do stuff.
Yeah. So.
We're not taking out the big oak tree.
I'd be fine, I mean, the saplings are probably going to have to go.
Yeah.
I'm fine with you, I'm sure you're more worried about as worried as we are about erosion before you get the wall in, like, that's the other.
Well, you don't want the place falling into the pond.
No, for some reason, I don't think you want your front door underwater, yeah, but yeah, no, I mean, they clearly need to come out, I'm sure you're gonna try to do it at the closest point in time, so as not to cause yourselves any problems. Yeah.
So when they do start work, just notify me, preferably a week prior, as soon as you can. Provide me with the contact information in the event I don't foresee there being a problem. If there is, I need to be able to contact whoever's on site,
Oh, just in case you need to contact.
just in case, yeah.
Okay. Do you want that for the files?
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Little information there?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not just those.
It's up
It is
yeah,
though,
it
it
is something.
lists the machinery being used, which I think was the commission's biggest concern. The materials being introduced for the wall.
Timeline,
Timeline.
did they give you a timeline of approximately how quick they'll get done once it's,
No. He's working slower than we had hoped.
We started talking to him in, what was it?
Snow was on the ground.
It was February.
but you're actually moving fast then.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all set. Sorry,
Yeah.
I had to wait all
Yeah,
week
no,
for that, but I
thank you for
appreciate you
everything,
coming in.
yeah.
Just provide me with that information prior, so you should be all set.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
All
Thank
right,
you very much.
great, thank you.
I know, I think I did a typo.
That's perfectly
Or in front of
fine.
everyone.
All right. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now entertain a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for the constructed project reference under DEP file number 112-0641, now established as 91 Century Mill Road. Rebecca, when you are ready, do you have an update?
So I emailed you all previously information about this. This is one of the sites that were of large concern right when I started here. Just to give you a little bit of history. There were 2 vernal pools that were certified on site. That's both of them. Yes, that's both of them. In addition, I have
It is.
It's
It's 100 yards away from the other one, yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
So this was a. Plans to show.
Very much.
Side by side comparison. Sorry, this is not my handwriting copy. As built, proposed. Between the two, obviously this was permitted, and then it was bought, developed, now we have this. I will read you the brief update from the engineers stating, "Dear Commission members, on behalf of 1000 LLC, Ducharme Dillis which is the applicant, Ducharme Dillis is requesting a certificate of compliance for the project located at 91 Century Mill Road, map 3D parcel 51. The project is subject to an order of conditions issued under DEP file number 1120641, which was enclosed, the as-built plan, and then the form for the request. The project involved the construction of a single-family home with sewage disposal system and private well. The site was inspected on May 9th, 2019. At the time of the inspection, all surfaces were found to be in erosion-resistant state. Photograph of the completed site is below. I also sent you from the follow-up site visit, as I typically do before, or as these requests come in before the meeting, images that I personally took. It is our understanding the certification of the vernal pool on the property has been sent to the commission under a separate cover. It was sent by Dan Wells, who had certified the vernal pools. Ducharme Dillis believes the project has been completed within acceptable construction tolerances of the approved plan. Please inform me if you require additional information. My immediate question after receiving this was typically we see letters that state are incomplete or excess of requirement or excess of compliance with the order of conditions, so I had to ask why the wording within acceptable construction tolerances of the approved plan. That being the post rail fence, which is actually, it comes across here, so it's closer to what was proposed.
Closer to
Yes.
wetland or closer to the?
Closer,
Sure.
outside of the, further from the resource area, excuse me. The dry wells are not present, but they have downspouts, I guess, on either side. There was an erosion issue here. They put some crushed rock right before the slope to reduce the eroding. There's lawn sufficiently grown all over the property. They have their blueberry plantings that have been viable, blueberry plantings here to remediate the lawn that was there previously. As you can see,
So there's
proposed
blueberry
tree line.
in here now at this point?
Yep, not lawn either.
Right.
So we had made that
Yeah,
amendment
that they could-
before,
yeah.
that they could do blueberry.
That's right.
So basically that conversation was specific to items that they had either pulled back from the original plans. The house is actually smaller as well, slightly. And the amendment of the fence, the blueberries, and this planted area here as well. Which was required within order of conditions. Also, the driveway had to be a specific type of pavement. It is the specific type of pavement that's listed in the order of conditions. So the erosion control is still in place. Again, at the toe of the slope, just before, basically between the post rail fence and the resource area. So it is protecting any runoff that did occur from pulling material into the resource area. It is a steep slope, we knew that when it was conditioned, but my concern would be, once we remove that silt fence, is it going to hold sufficiently? Which currently it is, but that's just something that the residents will have to keep an eye on ongoing. There wasn't any other issues that I knew of. Again, that this isolated area here is one of the vernal pools that was certified, that was also in the order of conditions. So there are some differences, but most that were jurisdictional came to us. The rest were minimizing the footprint. So I don't know how the commission views that, but
Generally a good thing.
Right.
Do you have any concerns with us issuing the COC?
I don't. You can always, I would suggest issuing a COC if you are voting this evening to do so. I would encourage the commission to issue a COC because of the site with ongoing conditions specific to things like maintaining the surface area of the driveway because of what type of pavement or asphalt is there. In addition, restricting what material can be on the driveway, so encouraging not paving it, so it's just a slick top. And I guess reducing the fertilizer, or restricting the fertilizer, herbicide, pesticide use on the property as a whole. It's basically almost carrying over everything that you can from the order of conditions within that area, or within jurisdictional area, which is basically all of the site.
How
That would
long,
be my suggestion.
how long do the ongoing conditions last? Is it-
In perpetuity would be
So
my
put the
suggestion.
shoulder, when they sold the house and everything?
Yep. You can, the commission has the right to have, for instance, if the commission wanted an ongoing condition to be relative to the plantings, you can do that as well, but typically, just because the site's so tight and it's very much so jurisdictional, I would suggest in perpetuity, so we know that there's some teeth to it versus time lapses and all of a sudden everything gets pulled in terms of what the commission's been working to allow the site to function.
So, the ongoing conditions theory possibly that we'd be looking for would be besides pesticides,
Fertilizers.
fertilizers.
How do you limit it?
What's that?
How do we limit it?
We said no herbicides, no pesticides. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, like,
How that kind of came into
use any of that.
If there's a sign on the lawn that says it, then I
That's
can
it, yeah,
go
that's
and
what you
say,
do again.
hey, if there's a sign on the lawn that says they used it, I can go in and say, did you know you weren't supposed to?
Or can we
You
say
get
they can't
fined.
use it?
Yeah, that's generally what we'll say for anything that close to the wetlands.
No,
is
that makes
that-
sense.
Yeah, 'cause some of those
Regional
log
counties
companies
are limited, I don't know how we say limited.
Oh, no, I mean,
Restrict.
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 You see the line company there.
Huh?
You see the line company there.
Yeah.
Right.
it's not much to mow there. so.
And then was there something
Yeah.
about, monitoring the erosion, not erosion, but stability of the soil once the erosion control comes out? That's something you mentioned,
Yes, that is something.
just because it's such a steep.
It really drops off.
It's crazy what people put houses on now.
It's a bad idea.
Huh?
It's a bad idea. Actually, Scott told us they would never build a house there. The house next door to one of its selling points is that it was 10.5 acres and they weren't gonna touch the other acreage and it was all gonna be fine. And then now got approved and put in and they decided they were gonna split it and put this other house right there. So, okay, I'm done with you.
Oh, goodness.
Honest man. All right,
So the other option is I can draft it so that we have everything versus
Let's
you
do that.
reading everything.
Thank you,
Let's do
yes, yes. All right, so we do not need to vote on it, right? We can just basically take no action. We don't need to close it, right?
No, you're right,
So we can,
just continue it.
all right, in that case,
Continue the discussion.
yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we continue the discussion for a certificate of compliance for 91 Century Mill Road to our next meeting, June 4th at 7:40 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So continued.
All right, we'll close it at the next meeting, is what we said, right?
Yeah,
So the conditions.
we'll have a nice
Okay.
written out one without me trying to stammer through and guess at things. It's always fun. Lori likes it.
It's easier on you, that's
Yeah.
all.
I don't take away everybody's fun, is they're like, why don't you try to get through this one? This will be great. People have a chance to look through minutes?
Yeah.
They don't, so I'll look through them. All right. In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes for our May 7th? Yeah, May,
Was it? No.
yeah, May 7th. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes for our May 7th, 2019 meeting as drafted and submitted.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah. All right. What we got?
So 670 Main Street, we closed last meeting, so now it's voting. I was gonna draft up road conditions, but we did that. And vote on that this evening. So what I wrote, was boilerplate, and in addition to that, the proposed garage drainage driveway improvements and creating our within designated resource area setbacks associated with bordering vegetated wetlands on site, regulated by regulations. Cited, the proposed project will be increasing the existing footprint by about 5 feet toward the rear of existing garage footprint while holding the line at the front of the existing footprint towards Main Street. One of my questions were, the roof and driveway runoff to be directed towards appropriate drainage measures. Do we want it directed away from, like towards the front of the home? Do we want to condition anything to do with the roof runoff from the garage?
I mean, we currently have roof runoff from the existing garage, right?
So that's fine, okay.
And they were gonna do riprap at the outlet, so if it's coming down that first, then it's natural drainage, right?
Yep.
So, I think they're just adding a small bit of paved area, basically, and the roof's getting a little bit bigger, right? So,
Alright, so I am fine with that too.
okay,
The drainage outlet area will be remediated and improve overall conditions, so that's that outlet area that you're talking about. No tree removal is proposed, these are just the findings. And then erosion control shall be in excess of straw wattle shown on the plans referenced above. No stockpiles, temporary or permanent, in nature within 50 foot of resource area, I believe that's what we had mentioned. Because their closest point is 58 point something feet away from the resource area.
is where on the site could they do it? I feel like that whole,
It's basically
That whole
on
property
the
is-
paved area,
okay, okay,
so keeping it to the front of the
okay,
property,
got it,
or even between the garage and the house there.
yeah, okay.
There shall be no motorized vehicles or machinery, or otherwise machinery, within 50 feet of the resource area, so same thing, so they can maneuver around.
Mhm.
And then, it's not subject to, so those are just findings, talking about the resources. And then, commission finds that the overall drainage patterns on site will be maintained or improved. Then we have the typical boilerplate. Is that fine? I just wanna make sure I
Yeah.
touched upon the things that we talked about.
Yeah, I think that was
That's to
everything.
my recollection, yeah.
So,
All right, so we've already closed it.
Yep.
Can we, is there, when we say the overall drainage will be maintained, is it clear that that means like ongoing, not just during the construction? Because we had talked about them keeping that, because it's like full of debris and weeds now, and it's not really,
So that would be something just like with that request for COC, once they complete the project,
we could put
we
it
would
in.
condition it
Okay.
as perpetuity
So that would
condition.
be with the COC, okay, all right.
And I'll note that on my desktop, that this, when the COC comes, or the request comes through.
Yeah,
to note that.
okay.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion that we issue the order of conditions for 670 Main Street as drafted and submitted this evening. Is that covered? All right, do I hear a lovely second?
Lovely second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, Kip on the second.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Green Road?
Yeah, we have a little bit of more to get through.
Okay.
Green Road is a piece of. We're kind out. Two copies. Same thing. No, other different ones. It's from September, this is. So as part of the chapter program, the town has the right of first refusal when someone's looking to sell a property. So that's what Green Road on the agenda is about. We have been asked by the town secretary on behalf of the Board of Selectmen as they make the final decision whether the town will act on the right of first refusal or not. It is a property currently in chapter 61A, so agriculture status. And the lots are 6C38.1 and 6C53.1. These are on the corner of Green Road in Harvard. Currently, so the previous one came out, they built a single family home on it, leaving most of the lot as open. And this is, it's kind of hard to see the highlight.
Field that's right there.
Yeah, the field right across the street. These two lots.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Right, and this is the one we already had done the right of first refusal on, right? The
Yeah.
18-1.
Yep.
Yeah. Those two ones. That's the one.
I remember that.
So, same question, do either of these lots show up on our open space and rec plan that you're aware of?
Well, yes and no. So I believe they're highlighted as prime ag soils.
Yep.
The way we updated the open space and recreation plan this year for these circumstances is basically within quadrants of Bolton. So priority area 1, priority area 2, 3, 4, versus listing out specific plots. Because of the prime ag soils and potential habitat that's there, there are some wetlands across the street. Those are things that would take into consideration, but there's no adjacent trails for public access that I'm aware of. There's Bower Springs up the street, off Bear Hill Road. We have conservation restrictions that allow for public access. We have a conservation restriction on a parcel adjacent to one that was recently released, but it doesn't have public access. It's more for the scenic and rural aesthetic of Bolton, along with ecological reasons to be preserved, not necessarily for public access. So with that information, the two lots could certainly be combined, I guess, in preservation in that sense, but I don't believe. Okay, so the gross, I'll read this to be a little more concise, even though that might be a contradictory statement. Enclosed, please find a certified copy of purchase and sales agreement for residential use relative to chapter land. No other properties being converted or sold as part. Gross sales price is $975,000. The land will be used for residential purposes. The parcels of land subject to chapter 61A approximately 18.047 acres of area. Defines the lots, referencing the maps. And the owner respectfully wishes to withdraw the property and obtain a release of Bolton's right of first refusal. He will pay rollback taxes and to please discuss at a board of selectmen meeting, to paraphrase the last paragraph. So we have under 20 acres of land with a gross sales price, which is what we would most likely, if we would like the town to act on the right of first refusal, we have the right to offer that same amount. That's my understanding. So.
Well, I would love to protect every piece of property in Bolton. I don't know, I again, we kind of want to keep our powder dry for when bigger properties come up or more, have something that has some connectivity, but we have, or more ecologically endangered, or more ecologically sensitive do like these two laws, I just don't know.
One thing, I mean, I don't know, well, they had a chapter past 5 years. The one thing I will say about agricultural land is that the towns act, and I'm not saying we should act on the right of first refusal or not, but I'm sort of throwing something else out there regarding agricultural land that comes out of chapter, and that's possibly a creative opportunity for the town to create some source of revenue in terms of leasing. I don't think there's a huge market for it. But at every town meeting since I've been here, it's always been, if anyone has any creative ideas for revenue. But the thing is, with this, we'd have to spend quite a significant amount, and I don't think there'd be a return if that were the sole purpose of why the commission were interested in preserving it for that agricultural purpose in itself.
What's about the Economic Development Committee? Do they do anything with this now? Is it a real organization?
It is a real organization. I cannot speak on behalf of what they do because I do not work for that committee or board or group. But I do know they try and work to get, so for instance, I think they would benefit or they would assist in if we had land that we wanted to have someone lease, they would assist sort of reel them in to some extent. That's my understanding of one of the practices that they carry out, but I could be wrong as well.
And we're really not the end all be all, right? We're just looking for
So
a
we're just-
recommendation, right? It's the selectmen make the
Do we want them
call.
to act on the right of first refusal?
Yeah.
Do we want the selectmen to act on the right of first refusal? Planning board also has to weigh in, board of selectmen has to weigh in, but it's common practice that it comes to
Yeah.
all the boards.
I don't see the town doing anything on this. Yeah.
There's no
What is
views.
You couldn't get them to buy Camp Virginia.
Yeah.
It's like,
60 acres for this price.
Right. It was surrounding a pond and everything, and there was no appetite
Right.
for that.
And so I just
I mean,
don't
they're
see
two
it.
beautiful
I don't
lots.
find this realistic,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, I thought you had a really great point with like it is possible.
It's beautiful, and it would be nice to see it stay beautiful and natural, but it's just not realistic. I just don't see it. I mean, unless there was something.
They kind of tucked around the corner by themselves, and then you can ride by and not even realize it's there.
Right.
I'm always like, I want to grab up every parcel that,
Right.
yeah, that too.
So
But
it's win the lottery.
yeah, realistically speaking, I
Yeah,
think so.
I don't see any specific reason for these two parcels, you know.
It's a tough one. Yeah, they're beautiful, but
So it doesn't sound like.
no, there were.
So do you want to do a roll call?
Love to. All right. So we will take a roll call vote. Yay means we think. Yay means you would like the town to exercise its right of first refusal, and that we're going to recommend to the selectmen that they do. Nay meaning that we do not recommend that the selectmen exercise their right of first refusal on this one. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Lori.
Then
All right. Kip. Emily.
Nay.
Mr. Payne. Yay. All right. I'm going to go with nay as well. Okay.
Okay. So majority? Sorry. I'm
Relatively
happy
good.
that you are willing to voice.
Me too.
The other piece of mail we received was specific to an analysis that I will scan and email to you, so I'm not gonna read through the whole thing. Basically, it's fiscal impacts of land use in Massachusetts, up-to-date costs of community services, analysis for four very different Massachusetts communities, so really giving a nice analysis of open space and the fiscal impact or lack thereof compared to if it was developed or residential use, et cetera.
Cool.
Very interesting.
Yes.
So I will email that to everyone, but we did get it in the mail. think. It. The other thing we have this evening is the vote on a consultant for 147 Long Hill Road remediation effort. Which I just misplaced the language. Oh, no, I didn't.
All right. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Just read the full one, right?
Yep.
This is last, all right. So the Bolton Conservation Commission will now determine one or more outside consultants to be engaged by the Conservation Commission for the specific expert services deemed necessary by the Commission at this public meeting on May 7, 2019, in order to come to a decision on whether the wetland replication area has been completed in compliance with the order of conditions referenced on the plans associated with DEP file number 112-620 regarding the project located at 147 Long Hill Road Common Driveway. These reasonable fees shall be imposed on the applicant and shall be the responsibility of the applicant, who will be notified in writing of the consultant, the amount of fee to be charged, and a request for payment of fee in its entirety. This request is pursuant to the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, and associated regulations 4.03, consultant fees. So, we'll do a roll call vote. Oh, actually, you have to determine
So you have to
which
determine
one,
who
right?
you're using. So I emailed you Ecotech, Paul McManus. The reason why I have three, one of which the planning board has used in the past. They've been wonderful. We had some other agents, Conservation Commission suggest a second. And the third, like I said, is Ecotech, who we have used in the past. But I wanted to include three so that we have options in the event that they're not able to get out within the timeline that we prefer. And with this, I suggest we choose one specifically and then establish that within the letter that I will then issue tomorrow to the applicant so that they can initiate that. The other option, like I spoke about previously, is sending them all three options and letting them choose, which is another decision as well, so long as you're comfortable, or if you have any other suggestions, that's obviously open as well. So the three were Ecotech, Paul McManus, Art Allen. I've seen their work and seen projects presented by them, both on the applicant side, the commission side, in my hometown, along with Bolton. Carol used to use Ecotech as well. They're very good at what they do. Horsley and Witten, Carol used to use them as well. In addition, planning board uses them frequently, not specifically their professional wetland scientist or senior ecologist, but rather their engineer, stormwater oversight. And then we have Hancock Associates. They have two individuals. I've included David Cowell, who's also a professional wetland scientist who's worked with other commissions and has a substantial record as well in terms of working on various projects for both applicants and commissions. I haven't heard concern about any of these from other conservation commissions, which we do hear from each other if there's any issues. And I did send you their bios prior, so I didn't know if anyone got a chance to look at that.
I thought, well, as I say, I'm familiar with Horsley, I was familiar with the Ecotech. I did not really look at the others. If you have a comfort level, and again, I don't see what everybody else is, I'm fine with sending them a short list and saying any one of these three, 'cause just to,
In case of cost.
I was just say, you know, cost,
Yeah.
availability, any if they have a comfort level, like I'm fine if we're comfortable with any of those.
Because if we choose one and they're not available, now it's back to us to go back and vet
Yeah,
through. I feel like that's something that he can take care of, right?
Yeah, but we've done business with all of them.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's good.
It's a really slick brochures too, that you sent us.
Which is really nice, yeah. Go ahead, sir.
Kevin Sline, 147 Alton. What if he doesn't reply? Because my guess is that he's not going to want to do it, and he's going to say he's not paying for it.
Well, we have funding being held for that, so that will just come out of that. I'm not sure if you were here at a previous meeting, I think Warren or Laura, Silly, had asked specifically that question, you know, what about the timeline, what about, expense? And in the past, he, has explicitly stated to planning board, you can use the funds from the bond, or what's being held. And, I don't see that being an issue, because he's done in the past.
Okay.
B out of that is, we have to do this review anyways, even if we pull the bond. We will need to have someone go out, assess what works needs to be done, what's in compliance, what's not, before they initiate any continued work, and I suspect it still needs to be done. So it would be pulled from the bond either way, unless he's paying out of a separate fund.
But if it is pulled, then the decision, I'm assuming, will come back to you guys as to the pick.
Correct. And to my understanding, we'd still be picking from the same group of individuals, and again, mindful of who's available when, who can follow up with the work quicker.
Right. And how does it relate to the deadline that you indicated would remain in effect for May 31st?
Yep. So it still remains in effect because, like I said, the third-party review, the area still has to be reviewed, whether he does it, whether we do it. After that deadline's passed, we prefer the review to happen prior, which is why I think it would be beneficial to send a couple options. But, yeah, the deadline still stands, and like I said, it's sort of, in terms of the third-party review regarding the deadline, it's almost a moot point, because it's gonna happen one way or another.
Okay. And if the deadline, all the work isn't done by the 31st, which I think is next Friday,
Yep.
then what happens on June 1st?
So then, if the work's not done by June 1st, I go out, confirm it, we have third-party review, confirm it. Once it's confirmed, we poll the bond, and that has to be done during the meeting and et cetera. So, but at that point, it's no say, basically. To my understanding, unless town council weighs in differently, I don't believe they will. But the deadline still stands, and we'll be moving towards that.
Okay, thanks.
So after discussing and saying that we want to give them the three options, is that something we need to vote on?
Yes.
Okay. So, we can do this by roll call vote?
Yep.
All right. All right, so we will be conducting a roll call vote to determine which consultant we would like to use to
Or to send all three.
Yeah, yeah.
You could even just say,
Whichever.
propose to send all three, yea or nay, and if it results in no, then you have another
We can go.
follow-up.
All right, so in that case, we're going to conduct a roll call vote. A yay meaning that you're in agreement with, we should send all three third-party consultant options discussed this evening to the applicant for them to choose. A nay vote meaning that you would prefer that we choose an applicant and not to give them the full three. Does that make sense? All right. Lori?
Yay.
All right. Kip?
Yay.
Emily?
Yay.
Bill?
Yay.
And I go yay as well.
So, then the last item we have, thank you, is letter to Sudbury. anybody else?
It was well written, yeah.
This is great.
But, there's a shortened version of it too.
There is, and I did email it to everyone, but I didn't want to,
I think it's as short as possible is a good thing.
so, and that's when I just sort of, to update those viewers watching, so Bill has drafted a letter to Sudbury, which we had established previously that the commission does want to support and move forward with and send this letter to them. He had provided a copy, which is what the commission members have in their folders this evening. I went through, edited, and tried to shorten, reduce redundancy to best extent practical without losing the message. Because as I found, when you write letters that
It'd be nice to
maybe
keep
it's
it
just
under
staff
100
looking at
words.
it,
Right.
yeah, it'd be nice to keep it to one page.
I
if
think
you
that
can-
was close to the 500 words too,
Oh,
which is a little long.
yeah. But those, I had nothing wrong with what the language stated, it was just specifically for concise and, just thinking of attention spans of people reading things when they read things and trying to be mindful of that. But did anyone have any edits to make? Did they have any things to include? Thank you for writing it, by the way.
Thank you for looking at it. I didn't offhand.
No, great to the short, and yeah, it seemed fine to me, it's obviously well reasoned. I didn't see any missing comments or anything from either.
Okay, so,
So there is one update, there's one of the members that we sent it to,
yeah,
and the CC attachments has changed, and I don't know which one it is.
you can email that to me too.
Yeah, let me get you an update on who we want to CC this to.
The other question is, do we want to bring it to a meeting, or do you want to come stop by my house to sign it, or do you just want to say, like, other letters we've issued where it just says for the commission, and then I sign it on behalf? Fine with me either way, but I want to extend that because it is a letter coming from the commission.
Don't we have like 3 other things to come sign with you already? What's one more?
That's totally
I was
fine,
gonna
I
say,
like your
yeah.
attitude.
Yeah, for something already.
So I think there's a few other towns in the area that Sudbury's reached out to also. Yeah, I honestly think they're gonna take what we have as a blueprint.
Good job. I like that.
The Rebecca version. No, you didn't change it that
They'll
much.
have their own, they'll tweak them all sorts of fun ways.
Anyways, Eversource is trying to put a power line from essentially way.
When I was reading your letter, I was like, huh, I did not know about this, yeah.
And run through the neighborhoods with it, through about a mile and a half of conservation land. So Sudbury's been fighting it, I think, for 2.5 years, and if maybe 3 years, they've kept them from progressing with it.
I was gonna say, when we talked about the pipeline, that was all sorts of fun.
Oh my God, it
Just
was gonna go
stories
through
from that.
farmland.
Yeah,
Oh, you guys did the same thing?
yeah, it was really bad, and it was really close. And again, we'll take up way too much time, but it was just, no, we won, they gave up on it, and it was we'll wait till the camera's off, we'll wait till the camera's off, but I have to tell you what it
That may
was.
be the same result we're seeing
It
now.
could be, well, actually, this will be different. Anything else right now? Okay, in that case, I'd like to make a motion that we officially close the May 21st, 2019 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. Here a second.
Second.
I thought everybody wanted to stay. All right.
All those in favor?
All those in favor, thank you.
Aye.
Aye. Good night, BATV.
I thought you might want to